Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're all doing well, and thank you for joining us. Today, I have a special guest, Shabir, who's our VP of Evangelism. He's flown in from the States to spend a few days with me to discuss strategy, and I've invited him to be part of our AMA so you can hear directly from him as to what he's working on. To post your questions for today, please use Menti code 62375. That's Menti code 62375. Hey guys, hey Ziad. Hey Mono, Edison, Crypto, and Bao. Thank you for joining us, and everybody else that's with us. So let's get started. So Shabir, why don't you fill us in? What do you do at Sparkster, and what have you been doing? And what's happening?
Absolutely. First of all, hey guys, I'm so excited to be here. It's really fantastic to have the opportunity to actually take out this time to speak to you, to actually have some face-to-face time. You know, in the first phase of our project, when we were really working on, building the traction, we didn't really have as much time as we wanted to be able to, put towards engaging with you guys. And we firmly believe, communication is very important at this phase and throughout. And we hope to extend that from here on out.
Absolutely. Just to say to that, I think that after the ICO, we were so slammed. In fact, even during the ICO, we were so slammed that we didn't have the time to be able to have this sort of dialogue with the community because we were dealing with so many different fires. So we apologize for that. And, it's truly a pleasure for me to be here with you guys every week, answering your questions and so forth. But anyway, why don't we talk about what you're up to?
Absolutely. So part of that greater concept of communicating and building the future of Sparkster, right off the bat, we're here for the long run. We're here for the long game. And what that means is evangelism, and what I predominantly am focused on, and the team I work with, is bringing the good news. That's actually where evangelism comes from. And this technological evangelism, or secular evangelism, as many of them call it, it emerged in Silicon Valley a couple of decades ago with companies like Apple and others. And the idea was, you have fantastic technology, game-changing technology, if you will, but getting people to get over their inertia to actually adopt that, there's sort of, laziness or whatever it may be, the reluctance, whatever those barriers are, that is something that we work on in evangelism to try to get people to adopt it. So we've been working on a few things. Number one is customer acquisition, and the other aspect is actually business development. So if I can touch on customer acquisition at first. Customer acquisition, dealing with actually getting users, actually getting people who are enterprise users, entrepreneurial users, and others to adopt the platform. So we've been taking this for a couple of angles. One angle has been the entrepreneurial community. Another angle has been the technological community, those who are delving in robotics and AI and blockchain and IoT. But interestingly, I wanted to share the experiences working with entrepreneurs and those in the entrepreneurship community. They've been really excited of what Sparkster means to the entrepreneurial community. And that is in particular, it helps people get their MVPs to market much sooner, much more rapidly, the minimum viable product, if you will. And the people who have been most excited about this are people such as those who foster entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial mentors. So people who run entrepreneurial launch pads, people who are part of accelerators, people who are part of incubators, they're extremely excited about this because they spend their days and nights, and what keeps them up at night is how they can foster entrepreneurship and how they can help people get their ideas into reality. And when someone comes with a tool like Sparkster to them, they get really, really excited about the promise and the prospect that brings to the table. So there's a lot of exciting things happening on that front.
So let's give them some transparency. Who have you been speaking to?
Sure.
What organizations are you in contact with? Are there any big companies you're talking to about fostering entrepreneurship and using Sparkster as a tool to be able to, ignite this entrepreneurship and make that happen? Give us some insight.
Absolutely. So one thing that I and our respective audience, I don't know if they get the chance and opportunity to see a lot of this, is one thing that we spend a lot of time on at Sparkster is strategy. and strategizing. And that's really, I think, what separates us from the rest of the pack. We're thinking in long terms in terms of solving problems. Amazon, Jeff Bezos, whenever he tries to solve a problem, he encourages his team to think in a longer time frame to solve the impossible. And we take that approach as well. We are solving the impossible. So when we come to solving these problems, in terms of transparency, you need a beachhead market at first. And you need to have some people who are willing to take on your product and become ambassadors. And in terms of that, the university environment has been very, very promising. We found a lot of friends very quickly there. Professors who are in marketing, in strategy, management. They're very excited about Sparkster because they feel that this can actually help those students in their courses who have an entrepreneurial flair to them actually get their product to market. That's one aspect. Another aspect is industry. We've been working with Blackstone Launchpad. We've been working with, as many of our viewers may know, it's a huge financial institution which actually spends a lot of their funds and has established trusts, charitable and otherwise, to actually support entrepreneurship throughout the United States and otherwise. So we're working with them as well. We're working with Starter Studio. Those in the United States will know of these type of organizations. We're also working with 1 Million Cups. They're doing phenomenal work and they're really excited. So these are actually the incubators of entrepreneurship, and we feel that this will be a strong beachhead for us, not only now, but in the years to come. Also, the technology space. Many people, when we would go to conferences, you may remember this earlier on, we'd meet a lot of, technologists who would, at first, perhaps many people who are business oriented or non-technical may think that, Sparkster is a threat to a lot of technologists. But it actually ends up being that technologists end up being our biggest fans, and they rave about us because it ends up solving a huge problem for them. I mean, let's be honest, we're human beings at the end of the day, and people don't want to do grunt work. They don't want to do busy work. I think that's true in India or China. The same is true in the United States of America, and the same is true in the UK. People want to do meaningful things that have impact in their lives. And that's actually what Sparkster helps enable people to do. So that's the customer acquisition phase. And we've made some big fronts on that. We've made some moves on that.
So tell us more about these organizations. For example, Blackstone, right? Yeah. Maybe you can give us some insight into who Blackstone is and what they're doing, and how we're able to help them, and kind of what's happening there, and maybe some of the university partnerships that we're looking at.
Absolutely. So Blackstone's a major financial institution, it's a global multi-billion-dollar player. It's very well known, very well respected. So these major institutions also have an incentive and an interest in incubating and fostering entrepreneurship. Why they would want to do that is because ultimately when entrepreneurship is fostered, they ultimately get an opportunity to invest in these projects. And this could lead to the betterment of society, and also for a financial output for them, and for them to benefit financially as well. So when the rate of entrepreneurship, the rate of innovation is not excelling, what happens? You have to find a way to actually incubate that. You have to find a way to actually foster that. You have to find a way to actually help people in that. So there are many great minds. I remember I was watching Neil deGrasse Tyson the other day, and he was talking about how, Elon Musk, like people are making a big deal out of, of what's going on with him these days. And that aside, but I just wanted to talk about how, like, he said he's the only game in town, right? He's the Edison of our time, is what he said. And with Sparkster, we believe there's so many more Edisons out there, and we're bringing them out from the woodworks, if you will. And that's really what Blackstone and other organizations like it are really excited about, is that we help bring out all these entrepreneurs to the forefront.
You might say that we're empowering the Edison within you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's a very good way to look at it. We're empowering the Edison within everyone. And because there is a real Edison within everyone. And if there's anyone who's historically inclined, I don't want to knock Tesla. So Nikola Tesla, a shout out to him as well. Very important.
Yeah. So what else are we working on? So you're working on entrepreneurship.
Yes.
You're working on how to take the Sparkster no-code tools and be able to help entrepreneurs bring their businesses to reality. And just to kind of summarize that, so the way we're looking at this is, how can we help entrepreneurs build those businesses quicker, faster, cheaper, easier? And in particular, those that don't have technical founders, they don't have people that, they have an idea, but they haven't been able to find technology people to maybe bring those ideas to reality.
Yeah.
And so what specific actions are you taking? Are you speaking at places? What give us some examples of, what actions do you take on a daily and weekly basis to bring this to reality? Is this talk, or what actions are behind the scenes?
Absolutely. So a lot of my time is spent actually going to events physically, speaking at them, engaging the community, and building the community. These are events that, for example, entrepreneurship think tanks, like Shark Tank, communities coming together and ideation.
Not the Shark Tank. You're talking about local community versions of Shark Tank.
Correct. So people who are just trying to get their idea off the ground and trying to actually bring that to other entrepreneurs, some who are more seasoned, and get their ideas and what they think about it. And I go to a lot of these events, and I talk about Sparkster. And when I talk about it, it's the ideal audience, right? These are people who are trying to have an idea, and they're seeing, is this an idea that's worth getting off the ground? And should I invest my time, energy, and resources in this idea? And when I do talk about Sparkster, there are a lot of times their eyes light up. And the reason the eyes light up is because we actually take the risk on board ourselves. We remove that risk. We mitigate and eliminate that risk of time, money, energy, resources. If you have a job and you're somebody who has a great idea and you want to start on a business venture, if you have to give up your job full time, if you have to take 6, 9 months, 12 months to dedicate towards your idea, that's a risk. And we're very empathetic towards that. But with Sparkster, you can actually do that over a weekend. You can get your MVP up off the ground and actually implement it without giving up your day job, without any of those things. And this is really what we worked on. I mean, the ethos of Sparkster is really important, and I think that's something that I haven't had as many opportunities as I would have liked to share with you. I mean, we never forget that our focus is to help empower people out there. There's people who don't live in developed economies. There's people who don't live in Western Europe. They don't live in the United States. They don't have access to many of these resources. They don't live in some of the more developed economies. With Sparkster, the hope that we envision for the future is to give people the tools so that they don't have to worry about that anymore. And what's really exciting is we're seeing more people, whether it's at Blackstone, a Launchpad, whether it's at Starter Studio, which you'll find across the country, or whether it's at 1 Million Cups, or whether it's at university professors who are talking about it. The traction is building. Within that, we're also working on several partnerships as well. ARM, we've been invited to speak at ARM TechCon as well. So a lot of speaking engagements and really evangelizing and inviting people to what Sparkster is and bringing that to the global population. Now, within blockchain, of course, we have a lot of people who are supporting us. And this is our crypto community here. And you guys have been with us for a long time. But outside of that space, that's where the evangelism comes in. And we're really excited about the partnerships that we fostered, not only within blockchain, but outside of it, because we're solving those real world problems.
Yeah, it's important to note that, when we talk about evangelism, it's not how do we get more people in, it's not just, I should say, how do we get more people in the blockchain or crypto community, but real world adoption, which is what we've been talking about from the very beginning, is about being able to solve problems for real people solve real problems for real people in the real world, right? And so here what you're hearing about is our efforts, our investments, and what we're really doing to be able to solve problems for real problems for real people in the real world, and that's why we are one of the few companies that will actually be able to bring about mainstream adoption. It's because it's something that we work on every single day. While you hear from me, this is what Shabir's full-time job is. It's what he does every single day. So let's talk a little bit about ARM. What's your perspective on ARM? For those that have never heard of ARM, why don't you just give us some insight into who they are?
That's a great question. ARM, the partnership that we have with ARM is one of the partnerships that I'm the most excited about and gets me really going, in the sense that ARM is a company that not only has an extremely strong market presence, and I'll talk about that in a second, but its future is very, very bright. And I want to give some context to you, and I don't want to just say fluff out of the air. You can look this up. There's a very famous interview of Masayoshi-san, who's the founder of SoftBank, with David Rubenstein. Masayoshi-san, many people may already know him. He's the founder of SoftBank. And Masayoshi-san is the person who bankrolled Alibaba in its prime, and also Yahoo in its prime. He's worth about 30 billion plus, multi-billionaire. He's done very, very well for himself. So he, a few years ago, bought ARM straight away. His company purchased it and privatized it and took it on board. And when asked why he paid this substantial sum to purchase this company, $34 billion or $35 billion for this, he said it's a pure numbers game. And he says that they have a 99% market share on computer chip design or microchip design, if you will. So if you have a phone, whether it's Apple, Android, if you have embedded systems, all those chips that go into cars, all those different things, all those chips are designed by ARM, and they have essentially a monopoly on that. And he said they're scheduled to ship out over 1 trillion chips in the next 10 years. I think 4 trillion was the number. And what that means is, and he argues, this is his quote, that over the next 10 years, ARM will be bigger than Google. And now that's a substantial claim, but this is coming from a guy who was right on Yahoo and he was right on Alibaba, and he's worth 30 mil. If some average run-of-the-mill Joe Schmo had said that, we may have discounted that statement. But this is somebody who's put blood, sweat, and tears in this. And so ARM, we're really excited. As we mentioned earlier, we were invited to speak at ARM TechCon this year. We have a very strong relationship with ARM. They do the hardware, we do the software, and we have this relationship with them. And so this is something that I think really differentiates us in this space in particular. Not only do we have strong relationships and partnerships inside of blockchain with Credits and Utrust and others who will be announcing soon in the near future, but also outside of blockchain, we have established partnerships with Labellium and also with ARM. So that actually makes me really excited about the future and what Sparkster is going to deliver in the next few months to years.
One thing I want to clarify, some people are suggesting that we paid for the opportunity to speak at ARM. We did not pay to speak at ARM. We were invited to speak at ARM. And it's not possible to pay to speak at ARM's conference. This is ARM's largest developer conference. The room will be packed full of Fortune executives, and you cannot pay to speak there. So that's just not true. So anything else you want to share before we kind of take questions from the community?
Absolutely. No, so on my end, or my front, things are quite exciting. We have a lot of things going on in terms of industry relationships. One thing that we do have that we're working on is our Industry University Research Center on blockchain. And this is actually an initiative that is being led by Georgetown University, a major top 25 university in the United States. It's a consortium of other universities, including UCF and many others who are actually developing blockchain technology and ecosystem design centers, research centers. Each university will have what's called a BTED, and that's basically the Blockchain Technology and Ecosystem Design Research Center. Well, they'll dedicate faculty and resources to actually research and study blockchain and actually make streamline adoption of blockchain in the real world through the university. As many of you know, universities play an integral role in the development of technology and the adoption of technology. I'll draw your attention to what Steve Jobs said with respect to the beehive effect in Silicon Valley. It's because of University of California, Berkeley, and Stanford that essentially made Silicon Valley what it is. And then, of course, IBM and other Intel and all those companies culminating together. But the university structure that produced top talent is vital. I'll also remind you that Steve Jobs, when he had left, or when he was removed from Apple, he actually formed Next. And in Next, he was focused on university and technology. So as a beachhead, the university environment is very, very important. And
it's a very good point you make, right? A lot of companies, a lot of major companies, Microsoft, Apple, they took their product. Facebook, Facebook. I remember getting a Facebook account when I was at university. So they, essentially they started their movements in universities because they know that the people that are leaving universities, when they're familiar with how to use their products and solutions, they take them into industry as tools that they know how to use. And so, for us to focus our efforts on universities is actually very important, right? That being said, let's move on, right, to some questions.
Awesome.
So we're going to start with the questions that are in Menti, and I can bet the question I'm going to get. The market is recovering. How about giving us our tokens now? So we've given you your tokens, we just haven't unlocked them, right? But let me speak more in depth about this, and I think this is maybe covered in the next question too. Given the conditions of the market, the potential of Sparkster, it's better to release tokens once Sparkster is up and running, so the people who bought for 32 ETH can stake their tokens. So let's talk about this whole the situation in the market, what my perception is and my perspective is on the market conditions. As you know, Eden Chain unlocked recently, U-Chain unlocked recently, and the first thing I want to say is I want to acknowledge and applaud the Eden community. Eden Chain unlocked in this condition because of whatever reasons they chose to unlock. But what I really appreciate and respect are the community that were accumulating tokens after listing. And it's a great thing to see that the community kind of step in and support the token. If there's one reason why a token can survive in a bear market, it's because that token has the backing of the community. And you just got to take your hat off and say, wow, what a great community to have a lot of support behind that project. So what does this mean for Sparkster? Does this mean that, hey, it's time for Sparkster to list and the conditions are right, and look at Eden and they didn't do so bad, and look what happened? So it's true, I think that Eden exceeded many people's expectations. Just to be clear, before Eden came out, the majority of tokens that would list in this market would lose 80 to 90% of their value, right? So if you've, purchased, say, 30 ETH worth, instantly your tokens would be worth 3 ETH. 3 ETH from 30 ETH. I mean, that's pretty bad. I don't think anyone would think that it's a good thing to list in those conditions, right? With Eden coming out, I'm excited and you're excited, right? And everyone's excited. Everyone's happy that there's potentially a recovery on the way here. And I fully agree, right? There's potentially a recovery on the way here. But we need to be prudent. We need to make sure that there's more data points that support what's happening. Now, naturally, what everybody wants, what I want, what you want, right, is that the token lists and it exceeds the ICO price in US dollars, right? But I understand that many of you are also happy with, us performing in ETH terms and not just USD terms. At the end of the day, the question is it the right time for us to unlock Sparkster right now, right this moment? Well, I do think that potentially there is a recovery underway. And that is good news because it means that the unlock is near. But there is a couple of fundamental differences between Eden and Sparkster. The first fundamental difference is that Eden only unlocked 20% of their tokens. And at this point in time, we don't have the luxury of doing that because the contract doesn't support it. The smart contract doesn't support a vested unlocking structure, right? So while Eden unlocking is kind of a good thing, for us to be able to see how the market is doing and to see that if the community support the token, then the token has the ability to withstand the pressure to fall. But the other thing that there is to say is that Eden didn't have an ICO. And so for those people that wanted to get in that couldn't afford the large amount needed to participate in the pre-sale, well, there wasn't an ICO at Eden, but there was an ICO at Sparkster. And so this, again, is a fundamental point of differentiation. Now, what I'm really saying, right, is that we are looking for more data points, because we have to be prudent, right? You can't take one data point and say, look, we've had a day or two of green and ETH, it's time to unlock. We got to be prudent, right? We got to make sure that we're taking data and we're making the right decisions for everybody. And so I'm actively watching what's going on. The community is, our advisors are actively watching everything that's going on, because I personally don't have the time to be watching every ICO that's releasing, but they do fill me in on what's happening, and then we discuss that. So I will keep you updated, but in my opinion, I think the time is coming, and it's not something you can miss, right? When the ICO community or the ICO market finds a flaw, and you release around that time, you can only go upwards, right? You can only go upwards, and that's what we want to see happening. And it's my hope, and for your sake too, that this is the time that, this is about to happen. It's close. Cool. So the next question, we mentioned the Innovation Fund and asked to submit projects by September 15th. Have we received any applications, and how will we work with them? Yeah, we've received some applications. We're going to be we're going through them. So once we've picked a few, we will announce them for you. More to come on that. But, if you want to submit something for the Innovation Fund and you feel like, oh, I didn't know that there was a deadline, submit it. We'll take a look at it. And the way you submit is, okay, so for those who don't know, what is this Innovation Fund? Well, the Innovation Fund is an ability to have an idea or a project built on Sparkster, using Sparkster's tools, no-code tools, to be able to bring your idea to reality. It's also one of the things that we're bringing to the community outside of the blockchain community, where we will fund and support the development of that project and help you get this business off the ground, both technical support and strategic support, right? And the way to apply is to submit your project to hello@sparkster.me. I'm just looking through your comments here in the chat to see if there's anything that's different to what I'm seeing in Menti. If you do have a question, please do ask it, either here or on a Menti, and we'll try and get to it. Take the camera around the office to show who's working there right now. There's people working here right now in 2 offices. And this is here in Liverpool Street in central London. Where do I see the crypto market in 2 years' time? This is a fantastic question. This is a fantastic question. I've seen a lot of people in our group talking about converting from tokens that you're buying to Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever. In my opinion, and I think probably the opinion that was held before this bear market, the greatest gains to be made are in the alt market. If you can pick a project, if you're, and this is hard, it's not easy, right? But if you can pick the projects that are going to actually deliver on not just technology, but deliver on users, deliver on adoption, deliver on value to people, real problems, real people. If you can find those, right, your gains will be significantly higher. You won't be talking about 1x or 2x or 5x or 10x or whatever. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not here offering any form of financial advice, nor am I providing any speculative advice on our own token. I'm just saying, in aggregate, if you were to look, is there an opportunity in something that's valued in tens of billions of dollars versus something that's valued in tens of millions of dollars and potentially has the ability to reach tens of billions of dollars? Well, naturally, the latter gives you a lot more potential. Now, what I would be looking for if I was to choose a project is I would be looking for the team, but not just the technology team, because the technology is important, but it's also, are there people who are actively working on adoption? As you know, we are, and I'm sure that there are other projects out there that are too, right? What's important here is it's not just, we released a video on Tuesday, it's in our Telegram group. It was live here on YouTube, talking about how, explaining Sparkster's business plan. Right? And I really recommend watching it. But what's key here is it's not just about the technology, but it's also about the business strategy and whether the business is viable and whether the team are going to deliver on a viable business. Those that are working on it, first you need to be working on it to be able to deliver on it. But if you're working on it and you have the ability to deliver upon it, I don't think that they'll be worried about what Bitcoin's going to be doing or where it's going or any of these sorts of things, because in the future you'll do significantly better banking on those sorts of projects, right? Anything you want to say, Shabir, while I'm kind of looking through these questions?
Sure, absolutely. So when you're looking for those projects, due diligence in any type of investing. I mean, be very mindful if there's ever a moment in time where, get rich quick, things like that. The time-tested way to actually invest with value, and I'm not giving financial advice here, I'm just saying that these are, you read any books, you can find this in Warren Buffett's work and others, there's a process, and that process entails research. And keeping that research in mind, you want to look at the team, you want to look at the white paper, you want to look at the MVP, you want to look at all of those things. And if you do that, you will find value provided you put in the work. And that's really where I see the market going in the next year or two. That's really where we need to start moving. A lot of these things, I believe personally, are very positive. This idea of making blockchain, making crypto mainstream, it has growing pains. Every industry has to go through that. And blockchain is no exception. I think that this is, in the grand scheme of things, will be positive. Yeah, we would have liked things to happen faster and sooner. I'm with you in that boat, absolutely. But this is the name of the game. Some things take time in terms of mainstream adoption. I mean, getting email into the workplace, into the corporate environments took a long time. I mean, we're talking about a technology, blockchain, that is fundamentally changing our world and is going to change our world. There's no doubt about that. Do you think that people who feel comfortable with the way things are already going are going to let that happen easily? I leave that question to you. The reality of the matter is blockchain is going to be substantial space, not in 2 years, maybe less than that, I believe, but it takes growing pains, and that's where we are right now.
Yeah, I think the current bear market is indicative of those growing pains. And unfortunately, it's my opinion that this speculative behavior is also a cause of that, right? We should be investing in projects, not speculating on them, because I don't think that's particularly productive. It causes the drops that we have now. But that being said, I think the future is very bright for the industry and for us. What we're doing is we're not just waiting or hoping for blockchain to be adopted. Sparkster's business plan, as I mentioned, is that by enabling entrepreneurs and university students to be able to bring their ideas to reality and to be able to know how to solve problems using Sparkster's tools, that creates a pool or a reservoir of users and customers for the blockchain, right? So it's kind of like we're feeding the blockchain because we're helping them solve problems now. And as we mentioned, that the reason why people would use Sparkster's decentralized cloud is because it's cheaper than the traditional cloud, because it makes financial sense to do so, right? Hitesh is asking, can I give more information about applying for the innovation fund? Yeah, I mean, it's really simple. If you have a business idea, what you want to do, and something that you want to build on top of Sparkster. It's really simple. Just send us an email listing out what it is that you want to build, and then we'll evaluate that and come back to you. The email address is hello, HELLO, @sparkster.me. Last question, because I don't want to keep these too long. Where did it go? I think someone was asking about, someone was asking about how people will know about Sparkster. And yes, Amazing Fun is talking about how listing will increase the awareness. Listing on an exchange will increase the awareness of Sparkster. So, a lot of people know about Sparkster, right? A huge amount of the community have heard our name, right? What they don't know about Sparkster is what you know about Sparkster. What they don't know about Sparkster is why they should believe in Sparkster. Basically, what they don't know about Sparkster is why you believe in Sparkster. And firstly, I'm very appreciative of the fact that you believe and trust in us. It's not something that we take lightly, believe me, right? But the way that we can bring more people into this project, because that's ultimately what's needed for us to have a successful listing, right, is to share what you think about Sparkster. Why is it, to engage with others, especially when they say things that are not true about us, when they FUD, is to go out in the world and tell those people, why do you believe in Sparkster? What is it about Sparkster that has you think this is going to be something that's going to work for us in the long run? And I know that there's many of you that hold that opinion, that Sparkster is a good thing in the long run, right? So why is it that you hold that opinion? Let's engage those people. I think we've done a lot of great work. I think you guys have done a lot of great work in damping down and killing the FUD that's out there. But now we've not only killed the FUD, but what's really important is that we now evangelize, as what Shabir does in the real world, we also need to do in our world, right? We need to get people to understand why Sparkster is such a great token to hold, right? Why you believe in it. If we're all sharing that, I think that we can change the public sentiment about Sparkster. And really, we need your help to do that. So I hope I've answered, a lot of your questions today. I don't want to keep these too long. And I really do appreciate you guys being here and listening to us and partaking and sharing your time with us. So thank you very much. Thank you for your time, your trust, and thank you for participating and supporting us. We're always here for you. We're always here to support you. And we will see you next Tuesday, or at least I'll see you next Tuesday in next week's Tech Talk. If you missed this week's Tech Talk and you want to learn about Sparkster's business plan, about why Sparkster is going to be successful in the long run, about how Sparkster is going to acquire customers, about why people would pay for the use of our platform, do check out the Tech Talk from Tuesday. Have a lovely weekend, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Take care, guys.
Take care. Bye-bye.